Caritas Communications, a notable Nigeria public relations firm, as part of its role in shaping the image-making industry, hosted its first-ever Reputation Leadership Roundtable, looking at the theme Ethics, Reputation and Technology in VUCA Economy. The event brought together media practitioners, public relations experts, and communications directors of corporations and institutions in the country. The founder and CEO of Caritas Communications, Mr. Adedayo, gave further insight into the theme of the event.
This first edition of the Caritas Reputation Leadership Roundtable has twists to it. It marks a series of activities that will herald the 10th year anniversary of Caritas Communications. We are therefore using this event to present the book Public Relations Thoughts and Deeds, which chronicles my personal journey in public relations and some of the cases that we have handled at Caritas, as well as insights from more experienced and more exposed practitioners than myself. When I set out to write this book, I was well aware there were more than enough books to fill this entire hall on the subject of public relations. Nonetheless, I was driven by the desire to contribute my own quota to this great field of human endeavor, from which I and several others have benefited so much. To me, this book is an opportunity to pass on lessons from the past, inspire the present, and speak to the future. The world has evolved and keeps evolving. Public relations has become life. It is life of small businesses looking to communicate plans and services or to explain issues to customers and other stakeholders. It is life to a misunderstood government communicating a major milestone or a new policy to millions of people who live in disbelief. It is life to the politician seeking votes from the electorate. The art of speaking volumes in a few words is addressed in this book. In 128 pages and 7 chapters, we attempted to distill a career that has spanned more than 3 decades and give examples of successes that should be emulated, as well as challenges that must be avoided. It's our hope that this book meets the needs of those who misconceive or do not understand public relations, or who think erroneously that it's all a Pandora box.
It also featured the launch of the book Public Relations Thoughts and Deeds by Mr. Adedayo, with Mr. Okoyemi Agbaje, CEO, RTC Advisory Services, as a reviewer.
The author suggests that the essence of all these definitions resides in human relationships sustained through various modes of communication, resulting in the need to win acceptance, validation, and/or endorsement of one another, and creating the imperative of acting in ways to engender public favorable opinions. There are 5 implications the author makes. It's a management function, it's about publics, it's a strategic function, it's a professional discipline, and it must be ethical. I find 2 stories which are in the book very hilarious, but also revealing about how perceptions of public relations practitioners may have shifted, thank God, positively over the years. The first story is about the author himself, who was employed as manager in charge of public relations, or so he thought, but who found that his chairman's view of his job was to be a de facto errand boy. And in the second story, which is rather more hilarious, a potential employee who was to be hired as group public relations manager found that he was to be interviewed not at the corporate headquarters, but in the chairman's mansion. He was delayed for over 3 hours while the chairman remained in bed. And the interview consisted entirely of 2 questions. The first one, do you understand Yoruba? And the second one, what is this PRO job that you people are making so much noise about? The author identifies several socio-economic and political waves that contributed to the growth and professionalization of PR practice in Nigeria. The banking boom of the 80s and 90s, and the banking consolidation policy, telecoms liberalization in the 90s, the environmental crisis especially the Ogoni one, and the lessons for Shell and other international oil companies, and the return to democracy in 1999.
At the panel session, discussants harped on the need for trust, ethics, and professionalism to be entrenched in the media and public relations space.
So what is important increasingly for those of us who manage brands, who manage reputation for people, who also even manage our own reputation, is to understand that increasingly, all right, we don't have all the controls with us. Therefore, the only control that we have is to be sure that there is the dissonance between what we stand for in the public and what we stand for in the private is not heavy. Once that is there, it's easier to manage reputation increasingly. And the element of truth can then be brought to bear on how you use that weapon of truth to stand well in the public space.
Ethics is a set of rules and by which we operate, either as individuals, either as a corporate organization, or whatever. And once those rules are being breached, then it's as if we're in the wild, wild west. Anything goes. So we can actually sit down and you find people who fabricate. I mean, I was very concerned when I found out that people sit down and manufacture news that didn't happen. You know, sometimes I think that, oh, I got that report wrong. You know, if you have a press conference and that report is published in the newspaper the next day and they misspell your name. My name, for instance, is Okuyasanya. It riles me when people spell my name Okunsaya, or people call me Yomi Okubadejo or something. I mean, all those ones are still acceptable. They are within the limits of you made a mistake. But when you say that I addressed a press conference and you then say that the man who addressed the press conference was not Yomi Badejo Kuswan, it was his clone, that is totally absurd. So what do we do? My take is that is technology here to help us build trust or destroy trust? Because the truth of the matter is that when we look at the aggregation of being volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous, what has fueled it more than anything else is technology. So what is supposed to be an advantage, if not carefully managed, will become a disadvantage. There are people who have committed suicide, young girls who have had their videos doctored and they could not explain it, and at the end of the day, they committed suicide. So I think the reshaping of this ethics does not lie with APC, it does not lie with PDP, it does not lie with federal government, it starts with us. It starts with the person sitting on your chair. If you make up your mind that you, from your little corner, from your little sphere of influence, that you are going to try and influence, that we behave in a more ethical manner, I believe that will be the beginning of a new Nigeria.
First, if we go back to the principle, those who are in the profession itself must just go back to what it is. Verification of sources, verification of stories. I am inclined to, when I see something flying around, the first thing is it coming from The Guardian? Is it in the mainstream newspaper? They are still the ones you refer to. So if Punch or Vanguard or Champion or this day takes its reputation, that word, and decides to run that story, I may begin to look at it. But of course, you and I know that they now state their reputation every day and push stories. Some of them are so arrogant, they don't even record their stories. So the truth is this: you have to switch your sixth sense on when you are reading a story.
Mr. Femi Adesina, Senior Special Assistant to the President on Media, who was also the chairman of the occasion, speaks on the essence of ethics in the media and reputation management space.
Well, I'll just be saying, particularly against the background of fake news and hate speech that is suffusing the entire world, let us be ethical people, particularly those involved in media. Let's be ethical. If we are not ethical, anything can pass for news. So Nigerian journalists particularly must begin to take ethics very serious.
Mr. Adedayo, on his part, speaks on how the PR industry can contribute to the development of the nation.
Public relations, as you know, is about everything that we do, not just what we say. And we believe that adopting the technology that is available today, adopting the principles of public relations, of principles of ethical communication, a genuine commitment to help others, a genuine commitment to provide service, a genuine commitment to assure that there is understanding. If all of these things are done, businesses will thrive, society will be more prosperous, and everybody will be better for it.
Perception and narratives are vital to how people view nations and their political economies. For Nigeria, it is a clarion call for professionalism and ethics, which is the light that all public relations practitioners must carry in the discharge of their duties.